thank you for the invitation, and it's quite a pleasure to meet all of you in the domain of ethics. And so, particularly thanks go to Christoph, who wrote a very encouraging and inspiring but complimentary introduction to my book of the Chinese value. Now that we are in the all in the field of ethics, so let me start by the meta ethics. So in semantics, what is democracy? So there are different interpretations to democracy. In the lexicon of Western dictionary, it would be, division of power, multi-party, universal suffrage, and check and balance, the public participation in the decision making. And it's summarized very popularly in the speech of Abraham Lincoln, of the people, by the people, for the people, and by the people. So it's people centrality. I think that's something that it is universally agreed. And then do we really have a stereotype in defining the democracy? So that's a question I would leave for further discussion. So in the case of China, nothing can really be talked about in a meaningful way without the historical context. Simply because China has the heritage of continued 5,000 years of civilized history, and also that China was not really completely conquered by China was neither completely conquered nor disintegrated. Yes, China was conquered by the Mongols twice in history, but then they were disseminated into the Chinese culture. So there is a strenuous continuation of the Chinese civilization as compared with Egypt, with the Middle East countries, and even India. So the tonicity of historical footprint is there to have a very strong bearing as what we are in our governance and political structure. 4,000 years ago, China started in the Xia dynasty, the patrimonialism, which means that the throne of the previous emperor will be given either to his brother or to his son. And that was really continued until the last emperor was kicked out of the Forbidden City in 2012, in 1912. So given such a long history and people were domiciled to be more subjective to the rulership of the political structure. And then during the Democratic Revolution, led by Dr. Sun Yat-sen, the last emperor was ousted, but when he started to introduce the Western textbook-like democracy, by having the bipartisan structure, by having the Congress, both with representative and Senate. So that, and he also introduced the first constitution in Chinese history. So then he wanted to, he translated actually for the people, by the people, of the people into his nationalism, democracy, and livelihood, which is still the flaring banner going on in Taiwan. He intended to have general election. However, that was not really implemented simply because he suddenly found that not many people were literate enough to even mark a ballot. So therefore, he discounted his ambition by having representation from the local provinces. And then local provinces were captured by the warlords. And the warlords were either using the inducement or coercion to actually the first Congress chairman was murdered by a warlord. So that filled out. Actually, before him, we also had 100-day reform led by Tang Youwei and Liang Qichao, and then Dowager, the last empress mother, had quite a revolt, and these people were either butchered or ousted to Japan. And eventually, the reform to introduce the monarch system failed, and then the reform to introduce the republic system also failed because he has then ceded his power to the quasi-emperor, the Yuan Shikai, and Yuan actually enjoyed his emperor throne only for 87 days, and he died. And then there was a complete chaos. So warlords fighting against each other, trying to seize their territories and conquer the other, etc., etc. So that was the episode in the recent Chinese history until the Communist Party came to being, and Communist Party wholesaled the Third International by Leninism. And then they became the polarized with the Kuomintang, or the Nationalist Party led by Chiang Kai-shek. And when the Communist Party was a budding one, was a non-ruling party, they tried to argue for democracy, and there was a negotiation, but from 2027, the Chiang Kai-shek was unhappy with the quarrelsomeness of the bipartisanship, and so he started to have almost a massacre against the Communist Party members, starting from Shanghai and all over, and hence the Great Civil War took place. So therefore, you guys also know the Long March. So after 4 rounds of containment and the massacre over the Communist Party in the southern part of China, so the remnants of the Communist Party organized the Red Army and started the Long March until they arrived in Yan'an of the Shanxi province, and also the Gansu province, which is adjacent to the border of Russia. And so then regionally, the Communist Party experimented the a democracy under the context of illiteracy among the people. So they propose, okay, who do you like? And then those who couldn't write and read would given a soybean, and they would drop into different jars. And so that was a successful experiment in Yan'an within the limited sovereignty of the Communist Party. And then the Civil War was translated into anti-Japanese war because in 1937, Japan had a pronounced war against China, and then the Chiang Kai-shek was continually determined to wipe out the Communist Party, because he had a firm conviction that without domestic stability, without domestic unity, there's no way that you have a unified power to defend the nation. Until he was kidnapped by two warlords who were under the pressure of democratic movements by the Beijing student demonstration, which proliferated around China, because students and faculties demanded that there has to be a unity, against the foreign intruders, because we have a very long belief that quarrelsome brothers will have to unify against a common enemy. So to set aside the disputes. And therefore, there was a temporary united front coordinated by the United States primarily. And so the war lasted, the hot war lasted 8 years. And on August 15th of 1945, Japan capitulated and was completely defeated. But then we had a even more brutal war between the Communist Party and the National Party. And so actually more people were even killed during the 3 years of Civil War, and fighting for the one polar party ruling. So until Chiang Kai-shek's government was too corrupt, and so they were kicked to Taiwan, and now it is still the legacy, and China, China is still firmly committed to take over Taiwan, to unify this nation. And there is both rational consideration, historical consideration, and also emotional consideration. So China is ready to pay any price to unify Taiwan. And so even now, the Mongolia was carved out from the Chinese territory, and China doesn't have a very strong emotion to take back Mongolia, but the brothers quarrelsome now turn out to be a focal point. And so, this is the culture, you like it or not. So unity and despotism is something that is deeply mesmerized in the culture, and also in the expectation of the people, because the Confucianism always promotes the strong ethics of family, and the family ethics. The husband is the leader of the family, Father is there to decide on everything. So everyone will be there to perform their defined functions. So actually, this is more in line with Aristotle's idea that everyone do their own defined job, and then that's a democracy. But the problem is that who is there to decide the category of functions of different people? So, you know, even Aristotle didn't answer such a question. So philosophers, you do your job. Army people, you do your job. Administrators, you do your job. But who are there to define those jobs? So that's quite a question. So it's supposed to be, okay, you know, Aristotle and even Plato believe that philosophers should rule this nation. But it seems that in reality, they can't. And then when the Communist parties, completely controlled this whole nation, and they declared the new People's Republic of China. And so the Communist Party became the only ruling party, but there are 8 other non-ruling parties who serve as the People's Political Consultative Conference, which is still in existence and exercise their own function today. And so gradually, we also built up a Congress, and we also built we also maintained the Congress is more like the House of Commons, and the CCPCC, the Chinese Political Consultative Conference, serves more like a Senate, but they only have consultative power, and they do not have the final decision power. But they are also very strong in getting the proposal to be disseminated around the decision makers. Okay, so this is the current structure, and China doesn't really want, actually, from Deng Xiaoping. Deng Xiaoping was a liberal guy, and he pushed China onto the climax of economic growth, but he didn't like the multi-party system. And actually, during the interview over how he would really treat Hong Kong, he said, "Okay, Hong Kong, they can do their own democracy. Probably in the mainland, in 50 years, we can also implement the Western type of democracy, but not today, because we are not ready. People ideologically, institutionally, and economically, they are not ready." And so, as a matter of fact, the Chinese open door and reform benefit China and also benefit the world, because China contributed over the past 40 years, 30% of the growth rate for the entire world. And simply because it's a top-down type of reform where government decides on the general structure of reform, and through gradual deregulation, and they achieved the economic miracle. And this is really in a stark contrast with Russia. Actually, Russia was, even at the point of separation or disintegration in 1991, Russia's economy was twice of China's GDP. But now, look at the shock therapy Russia implemented, and Russia accepted, at least on the surface, the Western type of democracy. They also have bipartisanship. They even for quite several years, they even declared the Communist Party, who funded the new Russia, as a legal one. Now, Russia's economy is comparable to one province of China, which is Guangdong province. So, in the end, so how to measure the how to build the ethical measurement. I always believe, no matter what type of system, no matter what type of leadership, as long as people are happy with it, and that's the right type of system. So it's again like Dunn's catechism. He said, oh, okay, I don't care whether it's a black cat or white cat, as long as it catches mice. It's a good cat, meaning that the means are open. The means can be optional, and the objective is exclusive. And then the judgment is also exclusive. And he also mapped out 3 conducives to as ethical measurement as what type of governance or leadership should be. Ask three questions. Is it good for the people's livelihood? Is it good for the general national strength? And is it good for social stability? So, based on that, anyone that can optimize these 3 objectives is a good system. And so actually, his 3 conducives can be really, good objectives for all governors actually in the world. So, is the Ukraine war conducive to people's livelihood? Is the monopoly of oil and gas is it conducive to the national strength? So, etc., etc. And then Xi Jinping is a very strong leader. He has a very strong character, but the continuation is a continuation of liberalism. Is still very strong. Actually, to compare with the planned economy, actually I have I show you one document. This is my university's introduction letter with the chop stamp. And when I traveled during the planned economy, 30 years ago even, I had to ask introduction letter from my university with chop stamps through layers of approval, even to buy an air ticket. And we lived on coupons, to buy clothes, to buy bicycles, etc. So right now, the social participation is something that is unexpected. So yes, do we have some grants? We do, because we still do not allow officially Google to penetrate. And right now, even during the pandemic, and many people are forced to certain areas of concentration, and simply after all, China implemented a very strong utilitarian type approach. Whatever is good for the majority, then the minority will have to endure a certain hardship or forbearance. So this is something that that we consider how China is managed. You call it democracy, you call it authoritarianism or patriarchalism. So no matter how you define it, but generally the satisfaction rate by different surveys would range between in terms of Chinese governance, from Andrew Nason to a World Value Survey to Asian barometers, vary from 65% to 80%. So this is something that we live with, and probably I can hear more from you guys for more inspiration and enlightenment. Okay, I would end up here.